Hello, dear friends. Welcome again to our Sunday reflection here at the Shrine of St. Anthony. This is Father Eric. Our gospel today is taken from John chapter 8, verses 1 to 11. And it reads, Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, but early in the morning he arrived again in the temple area. And all the people started coming to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say? They said this to test him so that they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Again he bent down and wrote on the ground. And in response, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. So he was left alone with the woman before him. Then Jesus straightened up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She replied, No one, sir. Then Jesus said, Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore. This beautiful story of the gospel that we just read tells us of Jesus' own attitude when it comes to sinners. It's interesting that the Pharisees were there not really to help this woman, but simply to trick Jesus of what he would say to their question. Oftentimes, a lot of the people today who have left the faith and the practice of religion altogether has an accusation to bring to the church or to the people who practice faith. And they say that religion has killed more than anyone in the name of God. I think to some extent there may be some truth to that we have waged many wars in the name of God and religion. Christians against Christians, Muslim against Christians, Muslims against Jews, Jews against Christians, Christians against Jews. We have all been guilty of fighting over God. And I think this fighting and judgment over one another has often scandalized many and have led them to lose their own faith. I think this gospel today reminds us how we truly should look at one another, especially when we are tempted to judge another person because they think differently, they believe differently, or even when we consider that they are in sin. Jesus showed us that the way to bring them to God is not by condemning them, but by loving them. That's why at the end of the gospel, when Jesus said, Has anyone condemned you? Jesus, who truly in the gospel was the one who is not guilty of any sin, he truly could have condemned the woman, but he chose not to because he loved the sinner. I think that's one thing that we often forget, this important lesson of loving the sinner but hating the sin. Oftentimes we are caught up instead of judging the sinner and forgetting to love them. If we have learned how to follow these words of Jesus to truly not to condemn, we probably could have brought more people to the faith. And so my moral theologian professor when I was in seminary has always insisted that when we deal with others, we have to remember that our mission is always to bring them a step closer to God, not a step further away, but closer. And we have to examine the way we do it, our words, our actions, the way we relate to them. These are important ways to ask ourselves, how do we bring others closer to Jesus? And we cannot bring them if we are quick to judge, but rather win them over by our love. This is what Jesus did to the woman as he said to her, Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore. This prescription not to sin is only possible when first the person has experienced being loved. And we are the ones now who are to bring this love of Jesus to others, to bring them closer to God. May our Lenten journey continue to teach us how to be more like Jesus, more loving, kinder, and more compassionate people. May God bless you during this season of Lent, and may you continue to follow us on our journey to Easter. God bless you all.